This video is an extract from an interview where an art professional shares their top tips for artists. Thanks for watching, and we hope you enjoy this video. Welcome to this webinar with the one, the only Kathleen Soriano. Kathleen Soriano's impressive career spans over 35 years in the art world. She is a judge on Sky Arts Artist of the Year. She is chair of the Liverpool Biennial and also of the charity Art UK, among way more other things. She's had important roles in institutions like the Royal Academy of Arts, and today she works as an independent curator on a range of arts and culture projects. So let's talk all about you, Kathleen. How did you get started in the art world?
But it was accidental, actually. I had a year out after school before I went to university, and I went to Kentucky. It's 1981, and I had a great time doing a freshman year. And one of the courses that I did was art history, and I fell in love with it. And then I went to the local museum, which was the Speed Art Museum, and discovered Boccioni for the first time and fell in love with his work as well. And it completely sort of opened my eyes. So when I came back, I focused very much on art history at university. And I'm so ancient that I was able to get into the art world with only a BA Hons. And I know that when I left the Royal Academy, we were employing administrators to come into the team that had MAs, if not PhDs. So it was a very different world entering the art world at that stage. But that's how it started.
So was your first role at the Royal Academy when you started?
Yes. I went to the Royal Academy. It was about 85 when I finished university. And I worked for an incredible woman as her assistant, a woman called Mary Ann Stevens, who was then head of education. And I was basically a mini version of her, which was great because back then there were only about 60 people in the Royal Academy in total. So you got to do a bit of everything, really. And it was fantastic for me to learn about all the different elements that were involved in making a museum or gallery work. I was effectively the first registrar. I was doing exhibitions, coordination work, organising symposia and lectures. And budgeting, all that range of things that she was doing. But it helped me identify that it was really exhibitions that I was interested in. And then after that, I moved to the National Portrait Gallery. And I started there with one part-time assistant. And I think within 6 years, I was looking after different departments, ranging from conservation to collections to design to art handling, and I spent 18 wonderful years at the National Portrait Gallery. I ran the BP Portrait Award for 18 years, or as it was called, the John Player Award when I started. And John Player, obviously the makers of cigarettes, and we used to pass around boxes of fags to all the winners and everyone else at the opening because that was the done thing back in the dark ages. And we were convinced that TV should be making a programme about the BP Portrait Award, but we could never, ever get them interested. And it was only when we started making this show that I realised why we never got it off the ground, because I think we thought at the Portrait Gallery that the story was all about the judging and the making of the exhibition. But actually, in reality, what it's about is watching artists make work. And I think the thing that captured the public's imagination more than anything else was the freeze frame camera that starts at the beginning of the day with a blank canvas, and then eventually over the course of the day it fills up until it's completely finished. And that, I think, is where the magic of the programme is contained, in actually seeing what artists can create in the time they're given.
Yeah, that's so interesting. So speaking of the TV show, since 2013, you've been one of the 3 expert judges on Sky Arts Artist of the Year. So what was the inception behind that?
I was brought on at the beginning. It was a complete fluke. So I was giving a talk at a dinner at the Royal Academy, and it was a very short talk, but at the end of it, someone came up to me and said, I'm working with this TV company and we're looking for presenters at the moment, and you talk about art really accessibly, and we'd love to screen test you. And of course, back then, I had a very important job at the Royal Academy, and I was terribly busy flying all over the world and making huge exhibitions. And I was very grand. And I said, I'm terribly busy. If you want to screen test me, you're going to have to come to my office, talk to my assistant. She'll find a time. So they did persevere, which I'm surprised they did, actually. I was so haughty. And they came to my office and we did a screen test with me talking about art, looking at postcards with two other people, one of them an artist, actually, a Royal Academician. And I remember at the end, after we finished the screen test, walking the artist out and saying, there's no way I could do this. It's like X Factor meets Britain's Got Talent. It's just appalling. Yeah. So I really didn't fancy it at all. And then they offered it to me and they said, well, one of the other judges is going to be Taishan Scherenberg. And of course, I've known Tai since he was about 22 because he won the BP Portrait Award. And so I'd got to know him then. And I thought, well, if Ty's doing it, maybe I should do it. But I was, I think in the first series, very, very, very nervous because you don't know how you're going to be edited. And it wasn't until the show went out when we really felt the confidence in what Storyboard Productions, who are quite brilliant, had created and how honourable they were in their sort of commitment to the artist and to quality. And I remember having a conversation with them when we were commissioned to do the second one, and they were saying, you can smile a bit more and wear colour. Because at the time I was art world, all black, very serious. So having seen the quality of what they were making, how they were making it, and the seriousness of it, I realised it wasn't Britain's Got Talent meets X Factor at all. It was far more important and valuable than that. And it's been great fun ever since making it with Kate, Brian, and Taishan Scherenberg alongside me. So it's all good. And then, of course, you have to remember, I mean, the thing that I think has really changed is I think the quality has really improved over the years. I think as artists have seen that it's a serious program and that it's making a valid contribution, they felt more inclined to take part. And I also think it's changed the conversation around art and portraiture. In fact, Frank Auerbach recently told Tai, when he bumped into him, that we had changed the conversation around portraiture completely. And there are a lot of artists out there who love the show that you would be surprised, you know, from Cornelia Parker and Gillian Waring to Toyin Oji Otudola. You know, there are some amazing artists who are very, very big fans, which I always surprises me slightly, but it's sort of very rewarding. But I do think, I remember that first show that we recorded in Trafalgar Square, walking down the wall and saying to Joan Bakewell, you know, I love this painting because it's full of narrative. And Joan turned to me and said, what are you talking about? It's not a book. And now, I know she's not working with us anymore, but every sentence would be prefaced with the narrative in this painting. And when we talk to artists, they talk to us about composition, about palette, about ground. These are all words and phrases that people weren't using before. And it does make our job a bit harder, actually, because every time we come in to make a new series, it's like, what are the new words? What are we going to use to describe this? We're having to reinvent the way in which we speak about it. But I remember when I was at the National Portrait Gallery, I did a project, because one of the things I used to look after were touring exhibitions around the country. And I worked with people from Nottingham who came down to select an exhibition for Nottingham Castle Museum around the subject of heroes. And when we were looking at photographs, they were very happy talking about Julia Margaret Cameron's work, handling it, moving it around, because the photographic material was very familiar to them. Everybody took photographs, they understood it. But the minute we moved into the galleries and started talking about painting, everyone completely cammed up. They didn't feel they could talk about art, about painting. And I do think the show has changed that now. I do think people feel more confident in being able to talk accessibly about art rather than contemporary art speak or whatever that obfuscates rather than explains. And also I think it teaches people to look harder rather than sort of looking and then walking past. They're looking for more in a painting.
What does it take for an artist to catch your eye when you're one of the judges?
Yeah, I mean, there are different stages of catching the eye, aren't there? I mean, one is when we have to reduce the original 2,000 entries, digital entries, down to the show, which is about 100 or so, which then sort of reduces even further. Online, I think everyone has the opportunity to submit 3 entries. I would say people should always submit all 3, because we always look to check and we're looking for consistency and quality. If you are going to submit 3, don't make the third one portrait that you made of Johnny Depp or Bob Marley, you know, that immediately is a red flag to us. Why are you doing that? It's not an original portrait. I think always make sure your photograph is really good quality. A good photo can make a bad picture look good, and vice versa. A bad photograph can make a good picture look not so good. I think it's always good to have a point of difference, make something stand out. And our artists have learnt that over the years, either strange positions or odd objects. But essentially, quality will always come through. And, you know, we're very sensitive. I can't speak for the others, but I'm very sensitive even to the support. On the photograph, I can see what someone's painting on. And there are certain techniques or certain supports that I'll immediately go, no, 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 this isn't an artist who really knows what they're doing. So a lot of it's instinctive, but essentially I think it's quality that comes through and consistency of those entries.
Thanks for watching this video. If you want to watch the full 1-hour interview and get top tips from an expert, then click the link below and join the Art Ladder mentoring program now. By joining the Art Ladder, you will get access to our full library of webinars with curators, collectors, critics, gallerists, and more. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos like this, and check out the description below for more free resources for artists.